I and Sajida will be talking about the novel Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins and how it can be used in the classroom. The Hunger Games take place in a nation known as Panem. The nation consists of the wealthy capital and 12 surrounding poorer districts under the capital's dictatorial control. The ruler is President Snow. The capital exploits the districts for their natural resources and cheap labor. As punishment for a past rebellion against the capital, one boy and one girl from each district are selected by an annual lottery to participate in the Hunger Games, a contest in which the tributes must fight to the death in an outdoor arena until only one remains. This event is televised. The story is narrated by Katniss Everdeen, a girl from District 12 who volunteers for the Hunger Games in place of her little sister Primrose. The male tribute is Peeta Mellark. At the end of the novel, they both survive, which is against the rules since there can only be one winner. According to Adams, a dystopian novel portrays a bad place. There is an oppression which is enacted by a totalitarian or authoritarian government, resulting in the loss of civil liberties and untenable living conditions, and living under constant surveillance. This is clearly depicted in the novel, which is why the novel is considered to be dystopian. The dystopian themes of the book that we will be talking about are limitation of resources, the importance of appearances, control and order, a totalitarian society government, and the inequality between rich and poor. We will talk about each theme in relation to a quote we found in the novel. The first quote is, "The boy took one look back to the bakery as if checking that the coast was clear. Then his attention back on the pig, he threw a loaf of bread in my direction. The second quickly followed and he sloshed back to the bakery, closing the kitchen door tightly behind him." This quotation points to one of the themes in the novel, limitation of resources. It occurs toward the end of chapter 2 as Katniss relates her first encounter with Peeta once Peeta has been selected as District 12's male tribute. Katniss credits Peeta's actions with essentially saving her life at the time and helping her realize that she would have to act as the provider for her family. When Peeta gave Katniss the bread, Katniss and her family were basically starving. The bread Peeta gave her allowed them to have their first real meal in a long while. Katniss realized that if she wanted her family to eat, she would have to hunt and forage like her father taught her to feed them. Hintz, Basu, and Broad explain that the districts are kept in firm check by grinding poverty and starvation, which is also related to the control and order theme. The next quote is, "I want the audience to recognize you when you're in the arena," says Cinna dreamily. Katniss, the girl who was on fire. Cinna says these words to Katniss in chapter 5 as he prepares her dress for the opening ceremony of the Hunger Games. The quote points to one of the themes of the novel, the importance of appearances. Cinna understands how necessary it is to make Katniss stand out, not just for the sake of vanity, but because he knows that appearances in the Hunger Games can have a significant, tangible effect. By standing out during the ceremony, for instance, Katniss can attract fans that might not otherwise have noticed her, and among these fans may be sponsors who could provide gifts that might prove critical during the Hunger Games. Though Katniss doesn't feel spectacular, especially compared to some of the other tributes who are bigger and stronger than she is, she becomes one of the most notable among them.
If we move on to our next quote, which is for control and order, we can see that it says, "Taking the kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch, this is the capital's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy. How little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just as we did in District 13. Here, the Hunger Games, Katniss tells us, becomes a way for the rulers in the capital to flex their big old muscles. The main purpose is to remind the districts how weak they are, and that their deaths are basically televised entertainment. So in this sense, the games are a form of control. According to Hintz, Basu, and Broad, the districts are kept in firm check by grinding poverty and near starvation, as well as by the ruthless show of power demonstrated when young tributes are forced to fight for the capital's amusement. And if we move on to the next quote, which is about a totalitarian society/government. The quote states, "If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just as we did in District 13. This quote shows how the government has not only control over politics and economy, but also the members of the districts. This kind of oppression frequently is enacted by a totalitarian or authoritarian government, resulting in the loss of civil liberties and untenable living conditions, caused by a number of circumstances such as world overpopulation, laws controlling a person's freedom, and living under constant surveillance." Moving on to the last theme of the novel, which is the inequality between rich and poor. Throughout the book, we can see that in poor districts, many of the residents do not have enough to eat. Katniss notes that starvation is common in District 12, and she has to hunt illegally in the woods beyond the district's borders to feed her family. In contrast, when Katniss arrives in the capital, she is astonished by the lavish feasts and elaborately prepared dishes. The food is rich and abundant, and Katniss, for the first time, tries hot chocolate. When it comes to the educational angle, then we have two suggestions of how we can teach this novel. The first suggestion is that the teacher divides the class into 3 groups, and each group has a role. These 3 roles are reporters, word hunters, and bridge builders. The reporters are the ones who describe the setting of the novel, like, for example, where they are located, who is there, and what is happening. The second role, which is the word hunters, have to search for difficult words in the novel that are important to know. These words will later be tested on in the end of the novel in the form of a quiz made by the teacher. Finally, the third role is the bridge builder. The role of the bridge builder is to connect the novel to reality. That is to say, the students try to find similarities between the novel and the society they are living in. So, for example, topics of discussion would be starvation in the world, freedom, inequality between the rich and poor. When it comes to the topic of freedom, then they could discuss about the topic of freedom of speech in, for example, North Korea. And when they're talking about the inequality between the poor and rich, then they could perhaps talk about the caste system in India. These discussions will appear each lesson, and in preparation for each lesson, the students have to read an assigned number of pages and come to class prepared to discuss the novel according to their role. These roles will change every other lesson so that each group has a chance to try all the 3 roles. The second suggestion is to collaborate with a history teacher. Here, the students are to write an essay where they compare and contrast the characters with historical figures. So, for example, they could compare and contrast President Snow with Hitler, or Katniss Everdeen with Anne Frank. By doing this, they are comparing and contrasting the novel with the reality and drawing connections between them. With that being said, that is all we have for this presentation, and thank you for listening.